I was almost not going to make this video, but with some coercion from Jan, I decided to make it. This is going to be the first of probably 3 again, videos talking about my Comic-Con experience. I'm going to, it might actually be 4. There's a whole new layer to this one this year, and I'll get into that. Like, this is pre going in and loading in. I have a new setup I want to show off. I want to give people kind of my experience. I almost didn't make it because I felt like it's going to be much like last year's videos, where I go, have an alright time, come back. But since Gaz has taken it upon himself to be more open about the experience and how much he spends and whatnot, I figured I could do the same as well. So this video is basically going to be covering the lead up into getting ready for Comic-Con, getting ready to sell. I decided 2 weeks ago that I was actually going to do Comic-Con. It is the Wizard World here in Iowa, comes through Des Moines. I have done it the last 2 years. They didn't have but a handful of celebrities that were going to be at it, even less artists that have shown up the last few years. So I figured it would be a good time to get in to show consistency that I'd done it every year. It's been here, and I figured with less artists, maybe I had a better chance of selling my wares in comics and people there looking for artist alley type scenarios. So with that being said, I had literally no funds from all the shipping this latest issue, taxes and everything else. I was scraping the bottle that I had to put my table for Comic-Con on a credit card, and that table cost me $350 for an 8x2 table. It is not a corner table. I felt that if I got a middle table and was near an edge, that maybe they wouldn't sell out their corners, that I would be able to pick up the table for nothing. So that was my thinking of getting just a regular table, not a corner table like I did last year. They have announced more celebrities and artists. I think they threw Charlie Sheen on there. He's no longer going to be able to make it. John Cusack will be there. Napoleon Dynamite, I can't think of his name. A handful of other ones. But they got Freddy Krueger back again. John England. I might be wrong with that, but Freddy Krueger will be there. And then announced this morning, I woke up to find out Stan Lee himself will be there. I didn't have expectations of this con returning next year because I thought it was going to be a low turnout and low sales for them, that they would just scratch it off the board. But I think with Stan Lee drawing people in, I think it actually has a chance of being a decent show, that they would pull it back again for next year. So here's hoping that it will happen, and I'll do it next year again as well. Figured I would be crashing with my friend Luke that I do my podcast with. It turns out he has somebody staying that weekend that's coming up to visit, so I didn't have that sleeping arrangement. So I went into all this without sleeping arrangements or anything like that. Thankfully, it is the week leading into the Comic-Con. I have found a couple different places to stay if one turns up not being well. But at least I have a place to crash for the weekend. The things I needed to do was I want to make a board for my pins, my buttons. Like Gas has done, he has his open case with the buttons sitting down in there. I don't think that works as well for my setup. His buttons are a little smaller, so I could see it working well for him. He also has a surplus of buttons where I make my own, so I only have a limited supply of each button. So I decided to make a board with little command hooks that I can just put the pins on, and people can swing by and grab which ones they want. It'll display them a lot nicer, and hopefully it will make them sell a lot better. So I've got to make that board. I have spinner racks, but the problem with the spinner racks is they are hooks on the bars that only hold things up, but my prints in their bags, it would damage the print if I use those hooks, so I kind of have to modify a spinner rack, hopefully that I can make it more useful for me and my intentions. That will add to my new setup that I have going on. And then I have been experimenting this with the last few shows I did at the bar. I will also be doing the bar the day before the 3-day Wizard World Comic-Con. So I will be setting up stacks of my issues 1 through 7. I don't have many of issue 1 left. I still have a decent amount of 2, and then 3 through 7 I have probably a good 20 to 30 of each of those. I'm also going to be showcasing the trade for issue 1 through 4. I am hopefully going to be selling those a lot more, just because that's the best rate I can give people for the most amount of comics, and plus it looks awesome. So that's what I'm definitely going to be focusing on leading up to this. The reasons why I decided to go ahead and do Comic-Con is because this last year I've gotten an immense amount of trial and error from the bar, so I want to make sure that I am picking up things and learning from what I'm doing there, and hopefully adjusting my table to make it the most profitable I can be. I think consistency holds a lot of weight. I think people, if they've seen me the last 2 years and see me again this year and maybe haven't stopped or haven't even flipped through a book, that I can get those people and draw them in and at least get them to pick up a trade and buy it. So that's what I'm hoping for. I also have this new setup that I'm working on, but I also have new products like the Zeke pen, the acrylic cards, the trade I had last year, but I just got done printing issue 7. Like I said earlier, it might be the last year for Des Moines, so I think I'd regret if I didn't do it and I did the other 2 years. I'm not expecting a lot of artists, so hopefully that holds true. And I am able to pick up another table, corner table hopefully. So this plan going into it, I'm still working on a commission for a friend. That painting has to be done before I actually get heavily into issue 8. I am planning on working on pencils of issue 8 at the con. I also want to set out my inks. I think with Stan Lee being a draw, maybe there's going to be more people in the comic industry that are checking out people actually making comics, and I hope I draw people's attention that way. Test that you can do a 1-page story, you can do 2 to 10 pages for a short story, or a full-blown issue. I think I'm going to make a 1-page story comic for it, as well as throw issue 6 and issue 7 into the ring for that contest. I also want to finish up with Bucky Cap issue 6. I've done through issue 5 on my Patreon. If you haven't checked any of those out, I really like how it's heading. Sorry about my eye. I think issue 6 is going to really show my chops, and if I can how good of a writer I really am. So I'm looking forward to that. I'll also do a recap video when that's all said and done, kind of feelings, thoughts over the whole interaction. I have a bunch of other story ideas that I want to throw up on Patreon, so if you haven't started supporting me on Patreon, there's no time like the present to do that. Also, I want to see if I can't modify that spinner rack to make a better presentation for my setup, and then that button board. So that's what I'm looking at doing. I will let you know the process, what happens. I'll do another video before con starts, probably that the drive to Comic-Con Friday morning. I will do a recap the moment I'm leaving the con, and then a recap of everything that I picked up, learned, maybe some stories from the convention as well. I don't know of but a handful of friends that are going to be at the con. I think a handful more thought about going to it now that Stan Lee is going to be there. I think I'm going to have some pretty decent sales with my new setup. And then I also have Luke tabling with me on Saturday. He's just going to be hanging out, and we're going to probably be drinking at the table, so I'm sure there's going to be some stories to tell, so look forward to that. I'm watching everybody's progress. I just haven't been commenting on a lot because I have been nose to the grindstone and focused on my work while I listen to everybody's videos. So keep up the great work. Like I said, I'm kind of cataloging everything that I'm doing in a bigger scope on Patreon. Also, if you haven't checked it out, I released my March video or sketchbook video here on YouTube. It's on a playlist. I will throw a link to the March sketchbook. Also, I put up the April sketchbook on my Patreon. That's for paying patrons only for right now. I really love how that turned out. I'm really looking forward to filming May's too, because it's getting even better than that. With all that being said, thanks for checking out this video, staying interested in what I have going on. I look forward to giving some more insight and hopefully helping people with their con experiences. That's going to do it for this video though. I hope everybody's days are treating them well. If you haven't been checking out me and Luke's podcast, they have devolved into this beautiful train wreck that if you haven't checked out yet, I hope you check out one of them. We spoil some latest movies, so be prepared for that if you're not. But we are having a fun time just kicking with each other, so I'll throw that playlist in the comments as well. That's going to do it for me. We'll check in with you later this week when I do my video for getting ready for Comic-Con. So, peace everybody. We'll check it later.